My room is going to be really important to me for a bunch of reasons. One, this is the first time in 7 years that I'm not going to be moving to a new place on September 1st. And that feels big. You know, that's like, oh, this is like home, you know, and it's also the idea of like, what is home, and are we always like traveling through places? And so to sort of carve out a space for yourself can be really nice. A small museum of you. You know, if you consider a room that way, that can be really nice. Of like, it's your own little Smithsonian of like archives of your past. I feel like even in the year that I've lived here, which is going to be a year next week, it's like I'm already looking around and it's like stuff that has amassed, but not just stuff, but it's like fixtures that I really like and sort of relics of pieces I've worked on that feel really nice to have around me because it's like, oh, I made that, or this was a prop in something that I made. Okay, well, I'll get to this quickly. In terms of it being a museum of yourself, I don't mean that it's like a monument to yourself. If this is the only space you have in the world, then it has to be filled with things that are important to you, that tell some sort of history, even if you only know the chronology of it. My gay uncle Phil or Steve had such a specific way of laughing that we called it the herniated disc. This actually grew from a short piece that I wrote in college for a creative nonfiction class, and it was sort of a profile of my gay uncle who doesn't exist. I would make up a gay uncle when I was younger to sort of be my buffer and excuse for standing up against homophobia, because I would never want to admit that I was gay. But it's like, no, I don't like homophobia because I have a gay uncle and Phil or Steve. The essay was called Phil or Steve, and then the TML play that came out of that was Phil or Steve. And it's about mixing up the two people I've made up. This actually was once on this string. It's from a iPod performance piece that I did at Culture Fix. That's a sort of form and style that I've been working on, and one that I care about and feel like I've landed on in this really organic way.
Hi, my name is Dylan, and I will be performing a dance to the Taylor Swift song 15 with... What I'd also like for you to know is that does not know what's happening. They won't be listening to the music. Instead, they're listening to a track that I've pre-recorded for them that gives them a series of tasks. Please give us a moment to set up.
These are some of my iPod shuffles that are all part of these iPod performance pieces that I do, where I have some sort of house track that the audience is listening to. So the audience is listening to a track, and either it's a song or a story, and then it is acted out, performed instructionally by people who are on iPods. So I have 4 of these iPods. This is a sign that someone was asked to put on in a performance of a Taylor Swift song. These are pieces from a performance I did for Soft Hydraulics, and these are props that the audience members on iPod were asked to use. These are signs from the Like a Prayer piece that I did for TML. This is how I keep and organize my iPods for the iPod performance piece. And so this is when there are 4 iPods so that they don't get confused, and each has their own little space for headphones and stuff like that. All of these allow the audience to perform the story you want to tell, which of course tells its own story. I think the thing about it is that you can walk into this empty space, and what I see it as is this elaborate booby trap that I have set up for people to become a part of and to pull out through instructions. They all get to listen to separate but synced instructional tracks that are also synced with the house track that people are listening to. So the audience who is not on an iPod will see a story unfold with people mechanically acting out instructions that they are given, or executing instructions that they are given, like hold up this paper, or put this gel on this lamp, and make a circle with this person, and start jumping up and down. So suddenly this empty space is transformed by activity, but this activity was premeditated, yet changes every night, or every performance, because every person will interpret it differently. And mistakes are so awesome to see, because if someone is sort of mistaken, there's like a natural comedy in that. Nobody is performing awkwardness. It's like, it is awkward. You're performing instructions and you're just trying to follow along and not mess up. And so I really love seeing like the humanity in those spaces, and like this intense structure. That's when you see humanity come out, not necessarily when you invite an audience member up and they sort of perform awkwardness. Then you're just seeing their performance of it. This form has meant a lot to me. It started for my 24th birthday. Wanted to have my friends over and have a dance party. The only space I could do that in was my mom's apartment. I couldn't like necessarily play really loud music in my mom's apartment. Silent raves are a thing. I in no way invented silent raves. But I was like, all right, everyone will download this master track that is 30 minutes long, and we'll all dance to it, and it'll be a combination of all my favorite pop songs, and it'll be great, and it'll be silent. And at the beginning, just to warm everyone up, because not all of my friends knew each other, I decided to record some instructions of like, all right, now everyone line up and stand in front of someone or behind someone that you preferably don't know that well. And then it instructed people to thrust forward and thrust backward and then get closer, so that we were doing a grind train. And that was just to sort of like break the ice, and also to like piece by piece create an image that we already know, which is like the bar or bat mitzvah grind train, the 7th grade, 8th grade grind train, which was like our way of getting out sexual frustration and like, or coming to terms with the sexual feelings we were having at that age. And then when the 30 minutes were over and everyone took off their iPods, you know, everyone was like, yeah, you know, like the dancing was fun, like it's cool to dance to music that everyone else is listening to, but I love the instructions. And then I had also filmed it, and I watched this video of people silently coming together and getting this grind train with no instructions, as they sort of like stared dead at the floor, and then everyone looked up at each other to acknowledge what was happening, and then silently everyone got into this line, and I thought it was so beautiful. I guess I kept working on it. It led to a TML play, which then led to a piece I did for a variety show, which was the performance of a One Direction song, and then another play, and then I just realized it was this form that I really liked working in, and one that I had landed on organically. This style, this method has been used before, but it feels new enough because everyone who's doing it is sort of doing it in a different way, which is really, really exciting to be at the beginning of this. This is something that I used in my first stop-motion video that I made for the Neo-Futurists, introducing me as a Neo-Futurist, and this was a prop in it. And that video was super important to me because it's sort of like I had never made a stop-motion video on that scale, and it was like the reminder that I could do it, you know? That feels great. But this is the sort of reminder that I have that this is possible, and that it can be as scrappy as this. It can be construction paper on poster board, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have a method, but you learn as you go, and so this is an example of that. This is a play I do, or a play I wrote with my best friend, and this play is incredibly important to me. It's similar to this piece. It's like proof that you can do what you don't think you can do. I never thought I could write a play, and we did it together. And it's also sort of like a monument to our friendship, and a monument to the idea of doing what you think you can't do. Her name is Jo. She's my best friend. I love her and feel like I've learned a ton from her. These are the boxes of props for the Ridgefield Middle School Talent Night play that postcard was of. This is 2 performers, and we perform 17 characters, and all of our costumes and props are in these boxes. So it's this very transportable play that can travel and can be compact and can be packed into boxes. So there's a lot of history and love and lessons and challenges in these boxes. This is what brought me to New York City and helped me realize that I really did want to perform and write, that there is value and merit to entertaining people, which is sort of an art form that can easily and should be constantly questioned. Why do we entertain? What is the point of it? You should always ask yourself that question, but all of the pieces that I've chosen to hang up in my room are sort of my way of answering that question of oh, this is something I did that people liked, whether it was on a tiny scale or on a huge scale. And it's not just that they liked it, but it's that if you can make something that can let someone escape themselves for 5 minutes or an hour, then that has worth. Yeah. Especially if your goal is, and I by no means always succeed in this, but if your goal is to make honest art that lets people escape themselves and entertains them, I think that has some real merit to it. This is my bathroom. I feel kind of silly having a bathroom of my own. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's really nice to have your own bathroom. This means a lot to me. This is a poem. I had a tough day last year in the home I was living in last year, and my roommate Nomi wrote this poem for me on a poster board, and it's this very simple, beautiful poem called The Orange. It's by this poet Wendy Cope, and it was just about making the small things matter in the world, and how this orange that she shared with her 2 coworkers made her day. I think that's a really beautiful poem, and I can read it to you if you'd like. At lunchtime, I bought a huge orange. The size of it made us all laugh. I peeled it and shared it with Robert and Dave. They got quarters and I got a half. And that orange, it made me so happy, as ordinary things often do. Just lately, the shopping, a walk in the park, this peace and contentment, it's new. The rest of the day was quite easy. I did all the jobs on my list and enjoyed them and had some time over. I love you. I'm glad I exist. I think that is really an important simplicity to remember, and to enjoy the really tiny things like an orange and the pedestrian everyday. And I guess that's what this whole room is about, in our rooms, that it's all of this stuff is just stuff, but there's meaning to it if you want to give it meaning, or there's not if you don't. And yeah, I love that sentiment. My name is Dylan Marron, and I am a person, and this is my space.